Danny West joining us from 24/7 Sports, HawgSports.com, part of the CBS Sports Network, and we appreciate a visit from Danny any chance we get. Danny, happy Thursday. How are you today?
Happy Thursday, brother. Good to be on with you, as always. Hello, Matt Jones.
Danny.
All right, Danny. What's
make me feel good? Yeah, give me some positive, something going good.
I was just saying, give me the temperature of the recruiting class. Matt said something else.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, I'm just full of good news. No, let's get into it, man. Let's go over it right now. Just kind of a general thought, Phil. It's it is what it is, man. They're losing a little momentum here in this class. This 2026 class has slipped to 33rd in the country, and if it doesn't break out of the 30s and get back into the 20s, this will be the third year in a row, guys, that it finishes in the 30s. And I'm not convinced yet that it may not dip down into the 40s, guys, just depending on, if a couple more of these big-time, and there's only a couple really big-time guys left on the commitment list. If they were to lose one of them and maybe another one of your highly rated 3-stars, now you're talking about the 40s. And yeah, just kind of as a general broad brush statement, I'm not sure that excites much of anybody at the moment.
What about in-state talent? Is there the guys that are able to play SEC ball? Are we getting any better at trying to keep some of these kids in home?
Well, yeah, I think we've gone over this conversation maybe in the summer too. That's another conversation in itself. But in terms of in-state talent, Matt, they're kind of taking this approach where they're not willing to spend as much as being asked by some of these guys at the moment. They do have some in-state commitments. There's one right up the road from you there in Bentonville. Well, a couple. Trey Irvin, obviously a wide receiver at Bentonville High, and then DeQuan Prevost. This is a guy, Matt, I think you and I may have talked about him before, but he's a little bit of a mixture of Jarius Wright, Joe Adams at the same time, kind of your deep shot, stretch the field type Bobby Petrino guy. I think you would like him quite a bit, but in terms of overall in-state talent, they're still jumping out of the state left and right, and that's been a trend now for 2 or 3 years, and one that I'm not sure we're really going to see until we see wholesale change at Arkansas, whenever that might come.
Okay. What's the feeling amongst the prospects that you're in communication with, whether they're a part of the incoming class that they're waiting to sign in December or future classes? Because, coaches that even when they're on the hot seat and they fully appreciate that idea, they don't stop trying to build what they'd like to build. It's a little tougher to do so, is my estimation.
That's right. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag right now, Phil, depending on who you ask. I have this week tried to reach out to all of the commitments and heard back from maybe, 3/4, maybe more than half so far. And, we've seen a couple of guys jump ship here in recent weeks. A couple of weeks ago, they lost Bryce Gilmore, who happened to be the top-ranked offensive line prospect in their class overall, regardless of position, top-ranked commitment they had, and they lost him to Texas Tech. That was a little bit different than the one a week ago where Javon Gilmore basically just kind of left his high school in the middle of the season, and Arkansas saw that as maybe not the best perception at the moment, understandably so, and so they decided to pull away from him. So you kind of have different cases on some of these guys. Just reaching out to them this past week, it sounds like maybe a couple are saying the right now part. When they add that quote, right now to the end, I'm committed to Arkansas. You don't always love that. You like hearing from some of these guys. They reached out and said, yeah, I'm still locked in. Ari Slocum is a guy that's still locked in with Arkansas. Tay Lockett moved to Conway from San Diego, California. Prevost, who we talked about, moved to Bentonville from Texarkana. Some of these guys you don't have to worry about, but the ones that are saying, at the moment I'm still locked in, yeah, there's probably going to be some more movement there, I would imagine.
Hey, that quarterback from Greenwood, it seems like we had Alyssa on, and she's doing a lot of high school stuff. And where does he rank all time as far as high school quarterbacks? He's got to be near the top, huh?
Man, kind of a different deal there, Matt. Just in terms of I would say, mystique and Arkansas legend at this point. Kane Archer is right up there with, some of the Matt Jones, Tyler Wilson's guys, Brandon
Thinking
Allen.
like Rhett Lashley. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Guys who have had tremendous high school careers and still doing it. And with that, you would automatically assume, based on some of the early returns, we're talking 2-3 years ago at this point, the 5 stars were being thrown out about Kane, and for sure 4-star. Well, now you look up, and he's midway through his senior year, and 24/7 Sports has him as a mid-range 3-star, and we know he's committed to UCF. And I can just tell you this, I think the world of Kane Archer. I think he's a tremendous competitor. I think this kid's going to go down there and kill it. I really do. He's got all the intangibles. But I sat there, and I can tell you this, I think Bobby Petrino is really good with quarterbacks and having an eye for talent. And I've sat there and watched him at multiple camps, watch Kane Archer, and for him to not make a stronger push towards Kane and ultimately deciding to take Gilmore initially in this class, I think it was pretty telling that maybe he did do his homework and maybe it's just a fit thing. Maybe he doesn't feel Kane fits what they'd like to do at Arkansas these days. So, a little bit of a long answer there, but, man, he's still awesome, and people ought to appreciate him for what he is. He's one of the best in the state. In terms of where he would rank, I don't know exactly, but in terms of, in history, he's going to go down with some of the names that are remembered forever, in my opinion.
Who's the next running back? This is, as much as Arkansas puts some NBA talent, it seems, in the last 20 years, that every 3 or 4 years, man, there is a beast that comes out of Little Rock or comes out of the state of Arkansas. If it's Peyton Hillis, if it's Cedric Cobbs, if it's Darren McFadden, Madre Hield, I mean, the list goes on with just running backs that the state produces. Do we have one in this class or maybe in next year's class? Do we have a stud running back that Arkansas could get?
The first one that comes to mind, and you're right, there seems to be there was a trend for so long where you would have at least every other year a big-time 4-star guy where everybody in the Southeast wants him, and, he's the dude. That has dropped off, too, and I'm not sure what the reason is for that, Matt. Honestly, we just don't see as many what I would call freak shows come through the state anymore for whatever reason. There is a kid, the first one that pops in mind. He's not a 4-star yet. I think we actually have him listed as a linebacker, but Trey Stewart down at Little Rock Central for next year's class. He'll be he's a junior right now, but he's around 6'1", 210-ish, kind of a big kid. Might fall in line with some of the Braylon Russells of the world that, did pick up some of that 4-star status, but it's been few and far between. You're absolutely right on that. You don't see too many De'Arius Howard, Cobbs, Dedrick Poole right in a row, one after another anymore.
I'd wonder why that is.
Braylon Russell reminds me a lot of a De'Arius Howard type thing. But you're right, Dedrick Poole, Cedric Cobbs, and then it was McFadden. It just kept on going. Peyton Hillis was in that group too, and that's very interesting.
Danny,
Matt, this morning, sorry to cut you off there, Phil. Just this morning, I was looking at Arkansas's last time they had a top 20 class was that 04 class, which would have been right before you were going into your senior year.
Yeah.
But, that one had Monk, it had Hillis, a bunch of dudes in that class. But Jamal Anderson was in that class. That's right. I want to say Fred Bledsoe, a bunch of them. And a really good defensive back class,
Keith
too.
Jackson,
you think about Randy
might have
Kelly.
been in that.
Yeah, Keith may have been in there. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that at you since I was coming on today. A lot of those names were throwbacks, man. It seems like 50 years ago. But
Marcus Harrison, too, I was thinking of. Yeah.
Do you think that's the ceiling for Arkansas in terms of recruiting rankings? And I know the rankings don't mean everything, but people will look at those, and there's going to be some meaning to it. I mean, is 18 or 19, is that what you think the ceiling? Because if it's been that long since you've been inside the top 20, it's like how can you get there recruiting wise?
That's right. Yeah, this will be my 16th year covering it full time, and I've never seen a top 20. That's crazy to me. When you think about facilities and all the support, man, everything is in place at Arkansas that's in place at Missouri and Ole Miss. And Tennessee is more debatable, more tradition, bigger place, whatever. But Missouri and Ole Miss don't have that big of a reason to be where they're at over Arkansas. I think it's more of a decision that has to be made, in my opinion, Phil. You asked about a ceiling. I'm not sure there is one. At Arkansas, it's just they've got to make a decision to take it seriously and make it a priority. And until they do that, I'm just not sure throwing a new coaching staff in there every 5-7 years is going to make a hill of beans. I think it's a fundamental problem that, in a lot of ways, Arkansas kind of limits itself, puts the ceiling on itself through scheduling, through its stance on NIL, and being slow to adapt in terms of, making moves, general manager type stuff, all these different changes coming about. Arkansas seems to always drag its feet when really it's got every opportunity to be right there, 10, 11 wins.
And I also wonder about, I guess it's because it's top of mind. But, also saw it against Liberty. And, I think another reason why you had to get rid of Chad Morris when you did is you can't lose 4 games to Group of 5 teams and they're embarrassing blowouts in your own building.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Memphis is a really good football program who wins games inside their stadium, but that was not a game Arkansas should have lost. And when you're the only team that's lost from the SEC to a Group of 5 team right now, it may end up being the only one that does all year long. I mean, how does that affect current recruiting?
Yeah, not great. But then again, Phil, it's almost like, I'm not going to say people don't care anymore. There is a lot of truth in that. People, they say they don't care, but I still find them in our comments to decommitment stories and things like that. It still moves the needle for them. So I know they still care a little bit. But, just as a general thought, man, it's not as important, I guess, as it used to be. What's really important now is whichever way the wind's blowing today. And right now the wind's blowing in the direction of transfer. And that's what's important. And, we've seen Arkansas climb up there to top 11. They had back-to-back number 11 transfer classes in the country. Now, you can make a case that transfer rankings aren't anywhere near as accurate, in my opinion, as our high school evaluations. There's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being you hand a kid or a 21-year-old $1 million, suddenly he might be a different person, So there's a lot that goes into that. But right now, just the overall feeling, there's not a lot of excitement. There hasn't been over the last few years. And it's just kind of at a standstill. There's a power struggle between the university that thinks buying better players is probably the quicker solution rather than paying buyouts and all this, keeping it going every 5-7 years. They would rather buy better players. Well, the support has to be there for that, and right now it's just not. And I don't think there's anything left they can do to really get it back.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.